On the day of the divorce, my wife lost her memory and only remembered loving me. On the day of the divorce, my wife lost her memory. Married 5 years, we grew weary of each other. I had agreed with Sophia that today we'd go to the Civil Affairs Bureau, split with a signature, and go our separate ways. And the result? I stood in the cold outside the Civil Affairs Bureau for half an hour when a single phone call left me stunned. Mr. Ethan, your wife was hit by a car and is now being treated at St. Mary's Hospital. Please come as soon as you can. I sped to the hospital like the wind. The woman who had been giving me the silent treatment a moment ago was now looking at me with bright, shining eyes. Ethan, they say you're my husband. I looked at her, and only one thought ran through my mind. Can this marriage even be dissolved? Today is our 5th wedding anniversary. It's also the day we agreed to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get a divorce. I, Ethan, am standing at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, holding 2 red booklets in my hand. Oh no, household registration books. The office opens at 9. It's 8:50 now, and I'm 10 minutes early. I'm the punctual type, especially when it comes to something like a divorce. Sophia, my wife of 5 years, will probably arrive right on the dot. She's always been like that. She and I are like 2 perfectly synchronized clocks, except one is always fast and the other always slow. 5 years into our marriage, the tacit understanding between us may be reduced to just those 4 characters: mutual disgust. I glanced down at my phone. No missed calls, no messages. That meant she was on her way, not having backed out. I couldn't quite tell what this feeling was, a little empty and a little relieved. These 5 years of marriage had been like a long tug of war. It was finally coming to an end. At 9 o'clock sharp, the doors of the Civil Affairs Bureau opened on time. The first young couple to enter wore idiotic grins. They held their prepared ID photos, clearly there to get married. I quietly shifted over, making way for them and clearing a broad avenue to the graveyard of love. At 9:10, Sophia still hadn't arrived. I was a bit irritated, pulled out my phone, and was about to call her. Just as I was about to bring up her number, I decided it wasn't necessary. It's come to this, what's the rush? Wait another 10 minutes. If she doesn't show, I'll assume she's agreed to give up and will reschedule. Time passed second by second. Several couples went in to get married, and at the divorce counter it seemed like I was the only one on standby. 9:30. My patience ran out. I decided to leave. No sooner had I turned around than my phone started ringing like it was chasing a death sentence. I thought it was Sophia. Hello, where are you? Are you coming or not? My tone wasn't very good. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then a stranger's male voice came through. Hello, is this Mr. Ethan? A relative of Ms. Sophia. My heart gave a jolt. I'm her husband. What's happened? It's like this. Ms. Sophia had a bit of an accident on the road. He was hit by a car and is now being treated in the emergency department at St. Mary's Hospital. Please come as soon as you can. What? My head went numb. Everything went blank. I didn't hear another word after that. All I could think was hit by a car, being resuscitated. I don't know how I hung up, how I stopped the taxi, or how I told him the hospital address. The driver saw my pale face and didn't ask another word. He pressed the accelerator to the floor. The car shot forward like an arrow released from a bow. We sped along at breakneck pace. I felt as if my heart was about to leap out of my throat. Sophia, you absolutely must be okay. I rushed into the emergency lobby and grabbed a nurse, asking, Sophia, the one who was just brought in from the car accident, where is she? The nurse was startled by me, but she quickly recovered and pointed toward the direction of the resuscitation room. Family member, right? Don't worry, the patient is out of life-threatening danger. It's just a head injury. Still unconscious, but has been moved to a general ward, room 302 on the 3rd floor. My legs went weak. I almost couldn't stand. Out of life-threatening danger. That's a relief. That's a relief. I scrambled up to the 3rd floor, crawling and tumbling, and found Ward 302. I pushed the door open. A wave of disinfectant hit me in the face. Sophia was lying on the bed by the window, her head wrapped in thick gauze, her complexion as pale as paper. She closed her eyes quietly, her long eyelashes casting a small shadow beneath them. I walked over step by step, sat on the chair by the bed, and felt as if all the strength had been drained from my body. I looked at her, my feelings a jumble. How long has it been since we truly looked at each other? It seems like starting 2 years ago, we began sleeping in separate rooms. I started working later and later at the office, and she spent longer and longer locked away in her studio. We went from sharing everything to having nothing to say. Home turned into a hotel used only for sleeping. I was even beginning to forget how I had courted her in the first place. She was the campus beauty of our university's oil painting department. People lined up from the main gate to the west gate to court her. And I was just an unremarkable senior in the architecture department. I chased her for a full 2 years. I brought her breakfast for 999 days, wrote over 100 love letters, played off-key love songs on the guitar under her dormitory, and was chased away 3 times by the dormitory aunt with a mop. On graduation day, I told her I was going abroad for further study. She said nothing, grabbed my hand, and took me straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau. She said, "Ethan, let's get married. I'm afraid you'll leave." Back then she loved me so passionately, so bravely. But now, I reached out, wanting to touch her face, but afraid of startling her, my hand froze in midair. At that moment, her eyelashes fluttered slightly. Then, she slowly opened her eyes. Her gaze was somewhat bewildered, like a frightened fawn. She looked at the ceiling, then turned her head to look around the surroundings. Finally, her gaze fell on my face. Their eyes met. I saw confusion in her clear eyes at first, then surprise. At last, a flush quietly crept up her pale cheek. She looked at me, her lips trembling as she made a faint, uncertain sound. "Ethan." I was stunned. "Ethan?" She hadn't called me that in 7 or 8 years. Since we got together, she's always called me Ethan or darling. "What are you doing here?" she asked softly, a hint of shyness and secret delight in her eyes. I hadn't had time to answer when a nurse pushed the door open to change the dressing. Seeing that she was awake, the nurse smiled and said, "You finally woke up. Your husband was about to go crazy. He's been here the whole time since you were brought in." "Honey?" Sophia looked as if she'd heard something shocking. Her eyes went wide in an instant. She turned her head and stared straight at me. Her cheeks flushed bright red. "Ethan," they said you were my dear." I looked at Sophia's face, written all over with shock and bashfulness, and my mind completely shut down. What's going on? What kind of act is this? But her eyes were as clear as mountain spring water, not a trace of impurity. That was the light I saw in her eyes 7 years ago. At that time, whenever she ran into me on campus, it was with that look. The nurse sister was still chattering on. "Yes, your husband is really good to you. The moment something happened to you, he rushed over in a panic. Look at his clothes. Look how wrinkled they are. He must have rushed over from some important occasion." I looked down at my own shirt. Indeed, for today's divorce ceremony, I had deliberately worn a newly bought white shirt, and now it was as wrinkled as dried pickles. Sophia, following the nurse's words, also let her gaze fall on my shirt. Her face grew even redder, almost bleeding. She stole a quick glance at me. Then she quickly lowered her head and mumbled softly, almost swallowed, a sentence. "We are married?" I opened my mouth, but not a single word came out. How am I supposed to answer? Say, "Yeah, we've been married 5 years. We were supposed to get divorced today, but you had a car accident on the way." I can't bring myself to say that. Looking at her like this now, I can't bring myself to say it. The nurse finished changing the dressing, reminded us of a few things, and then left. The ward fell instantly silent, leaving only Sophia and me. The atmosphere was so awkward you could scrape a whole flat surface with your toes. Her head was bowed, her hands nervously clutching the blanket, too afraid to look at me. I stared at the cowlick atop her head, my mind in utter chaos. I clear my throat, try to break this damned silence. "How are you feeling? Does your head still hurt?" She looked as if she'd been startled, lifted her head, and shook it. "No, it doesn't hurt anymore." After saying that, she quickly lowered her head again. It's over. This was definitely not an act. The Sophia I know could argue me into a corner picking at the plaster and give me the cold shoulder hard enough to turn me into an Antarctic ice sculpture. Since when did she become so bashful? Only 7 years ago. Only that Sophia, who had a secret crush on me, who would blush even when she spoke to me, would be like this. My heart sank. An absurd and terrifying thought popped into my head. She can't have lost her memory, can she? And of the most melodramatic, selective kind you see in TV dramas. Her memories have conveniently reverted back to the best period of our relationship? No, that's not right. 7 years ago, we weren't together yet. She was still pining for me in secret, and I was enjoying the vanity of being secretly admired by the campus belle, and kept delaying tearing apart that thin veil. So, her memory has gone back 7 years to when she had a crush on me? Holy crap. Ethan, she called me softly again. I came back to my senses. Did we really get married? She looked up, her eyes shining, full of anticipation and a trace of unease. I looked into her eyes. In them was the starlight I had long missed. The lie hovered at my lips, almost ready to spill out. Yes, Mr. Johnson. A voice from the doorway interrupted me. I turned around and saw the attending physician, a middle-aged man wearing glasses, Dr. Miller. He waved at me. Step outside for a moment. I'll tell you about the patient's condition. I breathed a sigh of relief, as if I had been granted a special pardon. Get some rest first. I'll be right back. I told Sophia. She obediently nodded, and the look in her eyes was full of dependence. I followed the doctor to the end of the corridor. Doctor, my wife. What's wrong with her? The doctor pushed up his glasses, his expression a bit grave. Mr. Johnson, please don't be anxious. From the test results, your wife's body is basically fine. The main issue is a head impact that caused a slight intracranial hematoma. Hematoma? Is it serious? Does it need surgery? My heart tightened again. The hematoma isn't large. It can be reabsorbed on its own, so surgery isn't needed for now. But, the doctor paused. But what? But the hematoma pressed on the central memory nerves, causing, a relatively rare form of retrograde amnesia. Retrograde amnesia? I repeated the unfamiliar term. Simply put, she has lost part of her memory. She doesn't remember recent events. How much has been lost? That's hard to say. Based on our preliminary questioning just now, her self-awareness seems to be stuck many years ago. She says she's still a college student. As expected, my suspicion was confirmed. God, what kind of cosmic joke is this on me? So, can she recover? I asked, clinging to the last thread of hope. There's a possibility of recovery. Maybe once the hematoma dissipates, her memory will return. Or maybe she'll remain like this. The doctor spoke cautiously. The most important thing is that the patient is currently very emotionally unstable and feels stranger to everything around her. As family, do not provoke her under any circumstances. Try to go along with her as much as possible. Create a familiar, comforting environment for her. It will help her recovery. Do not provoke her. Go along with her. A familiar, comforting environment. Those words kept echoing in my mind. The doctor patted my shoulder. Your wife relies on you a lot, which is a good thing. You've had a hard time lately. I gave a rueful smile. Hard work? This is more than hard work. This is basically an extreme challenge. I returned to the ward. Sophia was staring at the door with wide eyes, and when she saw me, her eyes lit up. Ethan, what did the doctor say? Am I seriously ill? No, it's nothing serious. I walked to the bedside and forced a smile that looked worse than crying. Just a mild concussion, rest for a few days, and you'll be fine. She exhaled in relief and patted her chest. That's good. That's good. You scared me to death. Then she looked at me with that expectant, bashful expression again. She quietly asked the question she cared about most. So what exactly are we? I looked at her, my heart torn between heaven and earth. Tell her the truth? Tell her that we were married, but our relationship fell apart and we were about to divorce. The doctor's words were still in my ears. Don't provoke her. I took a deep breath and made a decision that might lead to regret or might give me a new lease on life. I sat down and took her hand, which lay outside the covers. Her hand was cold. The moment I held it, it trembled slightly like an electric shock. I looked into her eyes and spoke each word clearly and slowly. Sophia, listen carefully. We are not senior and junior classmates. We are husband and wife. I am your beloved. As soon as the words fell, I saw Sophia's face. At a speed visible to the naked eye, it flushed from her cheeks to her earlobes, then down her neck. She looked like a boiled shrimp, her eyes glistening and shrouded in a faint haze. Her mouth was open, and she couldn't speak for a long time. Finally, as if she had used up all her strength, she squeezed a few words out through her teeth. Really? Really? I felt my face burning as well. God knows how many years it had been since I last said something so mushy. She looked at me and suddenly started giggling foolishly. That smile was pure and clean, like the summer 7 years ago. The first time I met her, when she accidentally smeared paint from her easel onto my white t-shirt, that apologetic yet adorable smile. My heart skipped a beat. My dear, she tested it out, calling me softly. Her voice was soft and sweet, like a marshmallow landing on my heart. I feel like I'm finished. This marriage is most likely not going to end. What is it like to bring home a wife whose memory is stuck 7 years ago? I, Ethan, am experiencing it firsthand. After finishing the discharge procedures, I drove Sophia home. All the way, she was like a curious toddler, her head turning back and forth between the car windows. Wow, this road is so nicely renovated. Huh, when did such a big mall open here? Oh my gosh, that weird rice noodle place in front of our school's gate is still open. I drove while absent-mindedly responding. Yeah, it has been open for a long time. She chattered on non-stop. The atmosphere in the car was a lot livelier than during our 2 years of Cold War. I stole a look at her through the rearview mirror. She was wearing the dress I had hurriedly bought, white, which really suited her complexion. Her long hair fell over her shoulders. Her face still bore the pallor of illness, but those eyes were astonishingly bright. She was filled with endless curiosity about this 7 years later world, especially toward me. Darling, she started calling me that again. Every time she used the term, she would blush first. When did we start being together? My mind raced. On graduation day. I chose the safest possible time. Graduation day? I thought you said you were going abroad for further study. She looked puzzled. I was startled. She actually remembered that. Ahem, I was planning to, but I didn't go for your sake. I lied without changing expression or heartbeat. There's no other way. The doctor said we have to go along with her. For me, her eyes lit up instantly, filled with gratitude and surprise. Wow, Ethan, you're just too good to me. She called my name outright, her tone intimate and excited. This feeling is fucking strange. I don't feel like her husband. I feel more like a scumbag who tricks young girls. The car drove into the residential complex where we live. It's an upscale community, Oak Manor, with good security and a very quiet environment. Are we living here? It's so beautiful, Sophia exclaimed again. I parked the car in the underground garage and took her upstairs. I opened the door to the apartment. What greeted us was emptiness. The apartment is spacious, a 180 square meter 4-bedroom, decorated in the minimalist style that's currently in vogue. The lines are crisp, with no unnecessary ornamentation. I personally designed it back then. At the time, I thought it was absolutely awesome. Now I only feel cold. Cold like a model home with no feelings. Sophia stood at the entrance, somewhat at a loss. Our house is so big, she whispered. Do you like it? I like it, I do, it's just, it feels a bit empty. She wrinkled her nose. My heart gave a jolt. Empty is an understatement. It's practically bare as a broom cupboard. Apart from the bare essentials, there isn't even a single picture on the walls. Oh no, there's one. Her studio was piled high with paintings she had made, but not a single one was hung up. And me, an architectural designer, not even one photo of the two of us in the house. By any look, this didn't seem like the home of a loving couple. Maybe it's because we haven't been here long since we moved and haven't had time to decorate. I kept bluffing. Moved? Didn't we used to live here before? Right, We used to live in the old house near the school. Now that conditions are better, we switched to a slightly bigger place. Oh, she nodded, half understanding. Then she began eagerly touring our new home. She pushed open the master bedroom door. A 2-meter-wide bed, gray bedding, everything excessively neat. Is this our room? She asked. I answered vaguely. It was indeed our room, but she was the only one sleeping there. I slept in the study next door. She didn't seem to notice anything wrong and pushed open another door beside it. Wow, what a huge walk-in closet. She walked in and looked at the 2 rows of wardrobes. On the left was mine, a uniform set of black, white, and gray shirts and trousers. On the right was hers, colorful dresses and all kinds of clothes. Clear cut, just like the 2 of us. Darling, you have so few clothes. She picked up one of my shirts and held it up. And they're all the same color. Work requires it, I replied perfunctorily. She walked over to the wardrobe on her side and casually pulled open a drawer. Then she froze. Inside the drawer was a neatly wrapped jewelry box. She took it out and opened it. Inside was a diamond necklace. Judging by the design, it was expensive. She picked up the necklace, her eyes full of confusion. What is this? When I saw it, my scalp tingled. This is bad. This is the gift I bought for her last month to make it up to her. We had a huge fight over a small matter. After the argument, feeling guilty, I went to the mall and bought this necklace, intending to make up with her. But when I brought the necklace home, she didn't even look at it. She said coldly, "Ethan, let's get a divorce." The necklace had been tossed into the dresser drawer. Now, the woman with amnesia had found it. Did you give this to me? She asked, holding up the necklace, her eyes full of hope as she looked at me. What could I say? Can I call this your breakup money? It's an anniversary gift. I felt like I'd maxed out my lying skill. Anniversary? What anniversary? The 5th wedding anniversary. Saying those words made my face burn with embarrassment. 5 years. Sophia counted on her fingers. We've been married for 5 years. My goodness, time flies. There wasn't a trace of sadness on her face, only curiosity and joy. She picked up the necklace and clumsily tried to put it on. I'll help you. I walked over, took the necklace, went around behind her, and helped her put it on. The cold chain touched her warm skin. My fingertip accidentally brushed her neck. She froze completely, a flush spreading across her throat. I was stunned too, my breathing thrown off for a moment. How long has it been since we were this close? I seemed to have forgotten the warmth of her skin. All right. I took a step back, my voice a little hoarse. She turned around, looking down at the necklace on her chest, a smile she couldn't hide on her face. It's beautiful. Thank you, my dear. She called me my dear again. I felt as if my heart had been scratched by a kitten's paw, tingling. As long as you like it. She touched the necklace and spun once in front of the mirror, like a little girl who'd been given candy. By the way, darling, she suddenly remembered something. Our wedding photos? Where do we hang them? Boom. I felt as if a thunderbolt had struck the crown of my head. Wedding photos? Where do we get wedding photos? Back then we rushed to register our marriage. Right after the registration, I was busy with the studio's projects. She was busy with her graduation art exhibition. The idea of taking wedding photos was put on hold indefinitely. We brought it up a few times afterward, but for various reasons it never happened. Later, as our feelings faded, no one mentioned it anymore. Now, where am I supposed to get her wedding photos from? I looked at her pair of big, inquisitive eyes and felt completely overwhelmed. Wedding photos. I began to frantically make up excuses. Well, we haven't had time to take them yet. Huh? Why? You've been married for 5 years. She looked puzzled. Because I want to design something unique, so I've been thinking about it and haven't figured it out yet. I really admire myself. I can say such nonsense out loud. Design? You're going to design our wedding photos yourself? Sure enough, she'd been distracted. Her eyes lit up again. Wow, honey, you're so romantic. Me, I'm not being romantic. I'm walking a tightrope on the edge of a cliff. When are we going to shoot it? I can't wait. She grabbed my arm and gently swung it. This was the little gesture she used to use when acting coquettish. It had been a very long time since she'd used it on me. My heart softened again. When her body is better, we'll go shoot it. I said impulsively, "Yay, that's great." She was so happy she almost jumped. Seeing how happy she was, a thought suddenly popped into my head. Maybe this is okay too. Let's just say heaven gave us a chance to start over. A beginning without quarrels or cold wars, only being madly in love. Although this mad passion is sustained by my lies alone. Just then, my phone rang. I took it out and saw it was my best friend, Peter. I went out to the balcony to take the call. "Hey, Ethan, heard you're doing something big today? So, how'd it go, divorced or not? Tonight the guys are throwing you a get-together to celebrate your new life." Peter's loud voice came through the receiver. I quickly covered the microphone and glanced back at the living room. Sophia was curiously examining the wall clock and hadn't noticed me. I lowered my voice and shouted into the phone. "A new life, my ass. Something big happened." "What the hell? Sis-in-law lost her memory?" "Her memory went back 7 years? Damn. Are you sure you're not telling me a TV drama plot?" Peter's shouting on the other end nearly blew out my eardrum. I held the phone a little farther away and lowered my voice, saying, "Lower your voice. She's in the living room." "No, bro, this is too bizarre, right? So are we still getting divorced?" "Divorce my ass. The doctor said we mustn't upset her. I'm currently pretending to be the perfect filial husband." I feel like I'm about to have a breakdown. One moment I was still tenderly affectionate with Sophia, who was deep in love. The next moment I was about to vent to my best friend who knew the whole story about this screwed up life. "Ha!" Peter burst out laughing rudely on the other end. "Posing as a good husband. You? The one who's been in a cold war with your sister-in-law for 2 years, keeping the home atmosphere so frigid you could raise polar bears. Keep laughing and see if I won't come down the cable and slice you." I ground my teeth. Don't, bro, I was wrong." Peter stifled a laugh. "So what are you going to do now? Keep acting forever? What can I do? Take it one step at a time." I sighed and looked at that slender figure in the living room. Sophia was on tiptoe, trying to reach a photo frame on the top shelf of the bookcase. In that frame was my college graduation photo. She wasn't in it. My heart tightened sharply. "I'm not talking to you. I've got something going on here." I hung up the phone and hurried back to the living room. "If you can't reach it, don't try. Be careful you don't fall." I walked over and, very naturally, reached from behind her and easily took the photo frame. My chest was almost against her back. I could smell the fresh scent of shampoo in her hair. It's lemon-flavored. I bought it at the supermarket beneath the hospital before I took her home. She froze completely, motionless. I took the photo frame down, stepped back a pace, keeping my distance. She seemed to come back to life, slowly turning around, her cheeks flushed again. I just wanted to take a look," she said softly, pointing at the photo frame in my hand. I handed the frame to her. She took it and, looking at the photo of me in a graduation gown, smiling radiantly, her expression grew a little distant. "This is your graduation photo. Inside? I'm not there." Her voice dropped even lower. A pang shot through my chest. "Yes, you're not there. At that time, we weren't together yet." On graduation day, with crowds everywhere, she stood among them, watching me from afar. I saw her, but I didn't go over. Looking back now, I was such a jerk then. Because we hadn't gone public yet. I began my in-fly of the day. We were together back then? Was it a secret relationship? She really took the bait. Her disappointment vanished, replaced by full-blown gossip and curiosity. "Yeah." I nodded shamelessly. "Wow, how thrilling. So we're secretly together without telling anyone." "Something like that," I said evasively. "Then why not make it public?" "Because there are too many people chasing after you. I'm afraid they'll beat me up," I said half-jokingly. That's not untrue. If I had openly chased Sophia back then, I guess all the guys in the architecture department would have cut ties with me. Poof! She laughed at me, her brows and eyes curved like a crescent. "You're so funny." She smiled, put the photo frame back on the bookshelf, then suddenly remembered something. "Honey, I'm hungry." I was stunned for a moment. All right, since leaving the hospital we hadn't eaten anything. It was already past 1 in the afternoon. What do you want to eat? I'll order takeout. I took out my phone. These past 2 years, we hardly cook. Either we eat out or we order takeout. No, I want what you make. She tugged at my shirt, tilting her head up to look at me, her eyes sparkling. Me cook? Even the dog won't eat the meals I cook. The only thing I can make is instant noodles, and even then I have to follow the instructions on the package step by step. I don't cook well. I tried to protest. It doesn't matter, as long as you made it, I like it. She smiled with pure sweetness. I looked at her face, full of expectation. I couldn't bring myself to refuse. What do I want to eat? I asked, forcing myself. She tilted her head and thought. I want to eat tomato scrambled eggs and cola chicken wings. I remember you secretly made them in the dorm before. They smelled so good. Me? When did I ever make cola chicken wings in the dorm? I didn't even know cola was supposed to be used for cola chicken wings. Oh no, that's not right. That seems to be the case. In my junior year, I asked around about her preferences so I could win her over. I heard she liked sweet things, so I looked up a recipe for cola chicken wings online and, using a small electric cooker in the dorm, tried to make it secretly. In the end, I put in too much sugar and too much salt. The outside of the wings were burnt while the inside was still raw. I ended up eating that last pot of dark cuisine myself, tears streaming down my face. I didn't tell anyone about this. How did she find out? Could it be Peter with his big mouth? How did you know? I couldn't help asking. I could smell it, she said as if it were obvious. The other day, I just happened to pass by your dorm building and smelled a particularly sweet fragrance. Later, I asked around and learned it was you making cola chicken wings. I was completely speechless. Sweet? That was obviously the smell of burnt sugar. Does she have about 800 meters of fan filtering goggles on? Okay, I'll go do it. I've accepted my fate. Isn't it just tomato, scrambled eggs, and cola chicken wings? A man can be killed, but not humiliated. A real man can't be floored by 2 dishes, can he? I walked into that kitchen cleaner than my face and opened the fridge. It was empty. Only a few bottles of mineral water and a can of expired beer. True, we haven't cooked in almost a month. We're out of groceries at home. We need to stop by the supermarket first. Sure. Let's go together. She seemed even more excited than I was, as if going to the supermarket were some kind of grand date. So the two of us, like any ordinary young couple, pushed a shopping cart and walked into the supermarket downstairs. Sophia flitted between the shelves like a happy butterfly. Darling, do you want to drink this yogurt? Darling, these chips look so tasty. Darling, look at this doll, it's so cute. She called me darling every few words, her tone sweet and natural. The elderly folks around us cast envious glances our way. I felt my face flush, but inside, a warm current was swelling. This feeling was strange, yet very familiar. We bought tomatoes, eggs, chicken wings, and cola. Sophia also threw a bunch of her favorite snacks into the shopping cart. At checkout, I pushed the cart full of groceries while she followed behind me, taking small bites of the ice cream we had just bought. In that instant, I was dazed. I seemed to see many years ago when we had just gotten together. Back then, we were like this too, shopping at the supermarket together, buying groceries together. She followed behind me like that as well, chattering away nonstop. When did we let our life turn into a stagnant pool? Back home, I carried a pile of ingredients and marched into the kitchen in high spirits. Sophia followed me in, leaning against the doorframe, looking at me with admiration. Darling, you're amazing. You could do everything. Me? Please, stop feeding him. I'm afraid he'll embarrass us later, and I won't have the face to see you. I opened my phone, looked up the recipe, and took a deep breath. Let's get started. Wash the tomatoes, cut the tomatoes. Beat the eggs and add salt. Pour in the oil and heat the pan. With a sizzle, the eggs hit the pan. I fumbled around, hurriedly stirring and flipping them. Not bad, looks the part. Tomatoes into the pan. Stir fry, add sugar, add water. Everything proceeds according to the recipe. Looks like not bad. I was just feeling a little pleased with myself when I heard Sophia next to me say, "Ah, darling, did you forget to add the scallions?" I looked down at the recipe. Sprinkle scallions before taking it off the heat. I forgot to buy scallions. Ahem, I don't like eating scallions, I said, forcing to save face. Oh, I remember you used to like them, she murmured quietly. I pretended not to hear. The tomato and scrambled eggs came out of the pan, red and yellow intermingling. It actually looked pretty good. My confidence soared, and I began to take on the ultimate boss, cola chicken wings. The chicken wings were blanched, then pan-fried until both sides were golden. Pour in cola, add light soy sauce, dark soy sauce, and cooking wine. Cover with the lid and simmer on low to medium heat. A sweet, fragrant aroma spread through the kitchen. Sophia sniffed hard. "It smells so good. This is the scent." I looked at the chicken wings bubbling in the pot and felt a small surge of accomplishment. Maybe I really do have a talent for cooking. 20 minutes later, I lifted the lid. The sauce has thickened, glossy, and red, clinging to each chicken wing. It looks perfect. I dished the wings onto a plate and set on the table. 1 plate of tomato, scrambled eggs, 1 plate of cola chicken wings, 2 bowls of rice. Although simple, this was the first time in 2 years that the aroma of cooked food had drifted through our home. "Try it." I handed the chopsticks to Sophia. She picked up a chicken wing, blew on it cautiously, then put it into her mouth. Her eyes lit up instantly. Delicious," she said indistinctly. "Darling, you're amazing." I watched her eating with a look of complete satisfaction, and my heart felt sweet too. I picked up a piece and put it in my mouth. Sweet, very sweet, so sweet it made my teeth ache. And also a little salty. This taste is hard to describe. Try another bite of the tomato and scrambled eggs. No salt added. I watched Sophia across from me eating with relish and fell into thought. Does she really find it tasty, or did the amnesia wipe out her sense of taste too? Is it really that good? I couldn't help asking, watching her stuff a second cloyingly sweet chicken wing into her mouth. Sophia looked up, her lips glistening with grease, like they'd been smeared with honey. She nodded vigorously, her eyes curved into crescent moons. "It's delicious. 100 times better than the school cafeteria." All right, compared to the cafeteria, I did win. Your tomato and scrambled eggs are delicious too, tangy and sweet, very appetizing. I quietly glanced at that plate of tomato and scrambled eggs that had no salt added. The sourness came from the tomatoes, the sweetness from the extra sugar I accidentally added when my hand shook. Appetizing? I think it's more like opening her mind. I quietly spooned the white rice, deciding not to burst that beautiful lie. As long as she's happy, that's fine. She ate with great gusto while I ate in a state of nervous dread. She finished more than half a plate of cola chicken wings, and a plate of stir-fried tomatoes and eggs was nearly emptied. I only ate a bowl of plain white rice. "Honey, why aren't you eating the dishes?" She finally noticed that something was wrong with me. "I am dieting." I fumbled for a lame excuse. "You're not even fat. Why would you diet?" She said that, then scooped a big piece of tomato and scrambled eggs and fed it right to my mouth. I looked at the tomato delivered to my lips, then at her pair of sparkling eyes. No escape. I opened my mouth as if facing death and swallowed. Sour, sweet. Not a hint of salt. The taste was strange, but for some reason, it didn't seem that bad. "Delicious, right?" she asked expectantly. I nodded with difficulty. "Delicious." After the meal, she volunteered to wash the dishes. How could I possibly let her, a patient, wash the dishes? I pushed her down on the sofa, had her watch TV, and cleaned up the mess by myself. When I came out of the kitchen, I found her leaning on the sofa, already asleep. The TV was playing a boring soap opera. She was clutching a throw pillow, breathing evenly, asleep soundly. Maybe I was just too tired today. I walked over, turned off the TV, took a blanket, and gently covered her with it. The living room was very quiet, with only the soft sound of her breathing. I sat on the carpet, watching her sleeping face. Long eyelashes, a delicate nose, lips slightly pursed. I've been looking at this face for 5 years. From the initial flutter of the heart to later familiarity and finally numbness. I thought I would no longer feel any emotional fluctuations for her. But today, from the hospital to home, my heartbeat hasn't been normal. Looking at her like this now, my chest felt as if it had been filled with something. Soft, warm. On an impulse, I reached out my hand, wanting to brush away the lock of hair that hung against her cheek. Just as my fingertips were about to touch her skin, she suddenly frowned in her sleep and shifted uneasily. Don't get a divorce," she murmured softly, her voice trembling with tears. My hand froze in midair. My blood went cold in an instant. She was dreaming about our divorce? Could it be that her memory hadn't completely vanished? It had just been suppressed? My heart dropped into my throat. I moved closer, wanting to hear more clearly. "Ethan, you bastard. Why didn't you pick up my calls? I hate you," she cursed intermittently, a tear slipping from the corner of her eye. I froze completely. Those words were like knives stabbing into my heart. I remembered. The night before we decided to divorce, she called me many times. At that time, I was in a meeting with a client at the company, and my phone was on silent. By the time I finished the meeting, it was already late at night. I saw over a dozen missed calls, all from her. I was annoyed and felt she was making a fuss again, so I didn't call back. She was sitting in the pitch-dark living room waiting for me when I got home. "Let's get a divorce." This was the first thing she said to me. I was stunned for a moment, then a surge of nameless anger rose up in me. "Fine, then leave." We thus set our divorce appointment for the next day. It turned out that night, when she called me, she wasn't trying to argue. She just wanted to talk to me, and I didn't even give her a chance. I looked at her tearful face in sleep, and a surge of immense regret and heartache welled up inside me. What the hell have I done? I reached out and gently wiped the tear from the corner of her eye with my fingertip. Her skin was very hot. I touched her forehead. Scorching hot. She had a fever. Panic rising, I hurried to rummage through the medicine cabinet. The thermometer read 38.9 degrees. Damn, it must be from being in the wind today and getting a scare. I woke her and gave her an antipyretic. She opened her eyes groggily and looked at me, her gaze full of dependence. "Dear, I'm so dizzy." "It's okay. Take the medicine and sleep, and you'll feel better." I soothed her gently. You stay with me." She held my hand, refusing to let go. "All right, I'll stay with you." I lifted her up and carried her back to the master bedroom. She was burning hot, soft against my chest like a kitten without bones. I laid her on the bed and tucked the blanket around her. "Go to sleep. I'll stay right here." I moved a chair and sat at the bedside. But she refused to sleep, staring at me with a pair of watery eyes. "Darling, are you upset?" "No, why? What's wrong?" "You haven't really smiled much today," she said, feeling wronged. I was stunned. "Is that so? I thought I was hiding it well." "I'm not unhappy, just a little tired." I ruffled her hair. "Go to sleep soon. Then, can you hold me while I sleep?" she asked softly, her cheeks flushed like apples from the fever. I looked at her, my heart starting to race again. Hold her while I sleep? We had been sleeping in separate rooms for 2 years. I was even close to forgetting what it felt like to hold her. But looking into her eyes, full of pleading, I couldn't bring myself to say no. I took off my coat, folded back a corner of the quilt, and lay down beside her. The bed was big, but I could still clearly feel the warmth coming from her. She immediately latched onto me like an octopus, burying her head in my chest and wrapping her arms tightly around my waist. "Darling, you are so cool, so comfortable." She nuzzled contentedly. My whole body went rigid. Her faint scent filled my nostrils, mixed with a medicinal smell. In my arms was a warm, soft, scorching body. For me, this was sheer torture. I'm a normal man. And besides, I love her. Even when our relationship was at its worst, I never denied that. I just didn't know how to love anymore. "Darling, your heart is beating so fast," she mumbled in my arms. "Because you have a fever. I'm worried about you." I found the perfect excuse. "Oh," she believed me and burrowed deeper into my arms. "With you here, I'm not afraid." I gently patted her back as if soothing a child. The person in my embrace gradually began to breathe evenly and slowly. She fell asleep, but I felt not the slightest drowsiness. I looked down at her. Moonlight slipped in through the gap in the curtains and spilled across her face, casting a soft halo over her. In my heart, everything felt tender. Sophia, if this is a dream, I hope I never wake up. If this isn't a dream, then what must I do to make you stay by my side forever? I don't know how long I lay there thinking. It wasn't until the sky paled with dawn that I finally fell into a deep sleep. The next day, I was woken by the ringing of my phone. I snapped awake and found myself still lying in bed. Sophia, still holding me tightly, just like yesterday. The warmth from her body had already faded. I carefully slipped my arm out and picked up the phone on the bedside table that was vibrating like crazy. It was my boss, Mr. Anderson from the Design Institute. My heart skipped a beat. Oh no, I forgot there's an important proposal to present today. I tiptoed out of bed and went to the balcony to take the call. Hello, Mr. Anderson. Ethan, where are you? The proposal meeting is about to start. All the clients are waiting. Mr. Anderson's roar nearly blew the top of my head off. Sorry, Mr. Anderson. There's an emergency in my home. I'll be there right away. What the hell are you doing? Don't you know how important this project is? 10 minutes. If you're not here by then, deal with the consequences yourself. The phone was slammed down hard. I stared at my phone, feeling completely overwhelmed. On one side was an important job. On the other was Sophia, who had just regained consciousness. What am I supposed to do? I glanced back at the bed. Sophia had somehow already woken up. She was sitting up, rubbing her eyes, and looking at me. Darling, are you going to work? She asked groggily, her voice carrying the huskiness of someone who had just woken up. Yeah, there's something urgent at the office. Oh, she lowered her head, a little disappointed. Then you'd better hurry up and go. Don't be late. The more sensible she was, the more guilty I felt. I walked over, sat on the edge of the bed, and touched her forehead. The fever's gone. I'll be back soon. What do you want for lunch? I'll make it for you when I return. Her eyes lit up. Really? I still want to eat cola chicken wings. Me? Her sense of taste was truly hopeless. Okay, I'll make them for you. I agreed with a smile. Then be careful on the way. She leaned over and quickly planted a kiss on my cheek. A kiss like a dragonfly, skimming the water. I was completely petrified. By the time I regained my senses, she had already shyly crawled under the covers. Only a pair of eyes remained outside, secretly watching me. My heart was completely thrown into chaos. I almost floated out the door. Her lips' soft touch still lingered on my face. Me, Ethan, a 30-year-old old man. Yet, because of one kiss, my heart raced like a young kid. So humiliating. I inwardly despised myself. At the same time, I couldn't help reaching out to touch the place she had kissed, the corner of my mouth involuntarily lifting. In the elevator, the mirror reflected my face. Smiling like a complete fool. I hurriedly put away my smile and returned to my usual icy, keep your distance expression. When I arrived at the company, sure enough, the atmosphere in the conference room was heavy. The clients' faces were getting darker one by one. Mr. Anderson looked at me, his eyes practically spitting fire. Ethan, you actually remembered to come? Sorry, Mr. Anderson, everyone, there was a traffic jam on the way. I told a lie, took out the USB drive, and prepared to start the presentation. For the next hour, I pulled out all the stops. From design concepts to structural analysis and material application, I spoke until my mouth was dry. Fortunately, I had been on this project for half a year, and every detail was memorized. After he finished speaking, the conference room fell silent. The lead client, Mr. Thompson, a middle-aged man with a Mediterranean hairstyle, pushed up his glasses and spoke slowly. Mr. Johnson's design, as always, is full of ideas, very bold, very avant-garde. I breathed a sigh of relief. But my heart sank again. Isn't this facade design a bit too avant-garde? We'd still like it to be more restrained. The facade I designed used a new type of curved glass curtain wall with a very modern shape. But it is indeed expensive and difficult to construct. This is the soul of the entire plan. If it's changed, the whole design will be ruined. Mr. Thompson, this design, I was about to argue my case when Mr. Anderson kicked me under the table and gave me a look. Mr. Thompson is right. We also think this plan still has room for improvement. Mr. Anderson chuckled, smoothing things over. Then we'll go back and revise a version based on your suggestions. How does that sound? Yes, that's best. Mr. Thompson nodded in satisfaction. The meeting ended, and the client bosses were respectfully escorted out. Only Mr. Anderson and I remained in the conference room. Ethan, what's going on with you today? You're so absent-minded. Mr. Anderson's face fell. I'm sorry, Mr. Anderson. You know how important this project is to the company. Mr. Thompson over there trusts only you, and you nearly blew it today. Enough, stop. Mr. Anderson waved his hand. Take the proposal back and revise it according to Mr. Thompson's instructions. Change the facade to a conventional one and bring the cost down. Mr. Anderson, that design can't be changed. I blurted. That's the highlight of the entire building. Highlights? Can highlights fill a stomach? Client A wants stability, wants cost-effectiveness. Not your flashy, showy pieces of art. But that's my labor of love. Labor of love? Your labor of love is worthless in front of client daddy's money. Mr. Anderson banged the table. I don't care what methods you use. Within 3 days, give me a completely new proposal. Or get out. Mr. Anderson slammed the door and left. I stood alone in the empty conference room, feeling as if all the strength had been drained from my body. This is reality. My ideals, my convictions against reality, they collapsed without resistance. I returned to my desk and turned on my computer. Staring at the model on the screen that I'd stayed up countless nights to make, my heart was filled with desolation. Over the past 2 years, my relationship with Sophia has grown worse, and a large part of the reason was my work. I became busier and had less and less time to accompany her. I poured all my energy into my work, thinking that as long as I succeeded, I could give her a better life. But I forgot. What she wanted was never any of these. The phone vibrated. It was a text from Sophia. Dear, have you finished your meeting? Are you tired? I looked at that message, and my heart warmed. It had been a long time since anyone had asked me if I was tired. I replied back, just finished, not tired. They replied almost instantly. Liar, you must be exhausted. Hurry back. I prepared a surprise for you. A surprise? I was a little curious. What surprise? Not telling you. You'll know when you get back. Seeing that expression, I couldn't help but laugh. The little gloom that work had brought me seemed to lift quite a bit. Fuck the client, fuck the proposal. The world is big, but my wife is the biggest. I shut off my computer, said goodbye to my colleagues, and skipped out of work to go straight home. When I got home and opened the door, I was hit by a peculiar fragrance. A little like the scent of flowers, and a little like the smell of something burning. My heart gave a jolt, and I rushed into the room. Sophia? Sophia, I'm here. Sophia poked her little head out of the kitchen, her face blotched black and white like a calico kitten. She was wearing my white shirt, the sleeves rolled up high, the hem reaching her knees, which looked a bit comical. The kitchen was a mess. On the stove, a pot was black as if it had just been dug out of a coal pile. On the kitchen counter, flour was scattered, there was beaten egg, and various seasonings whose names I couldn't recall. What are you doing? I stared in disbelief. I'm making you a love-themed lunch. She presented a plate from behind like showing off a treasure. On the plate were several dark, shapeless pancakes. Zang, 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 zang. These are called Love Until It Turns Black, little cookies. I just learned how to make them online, she said, beaming with pride. I looked at the plate of little cookies, then at her freckled face, not sure whether to laugh or cry. Did you hurt yourself? I took her hand and checked it up and down. No, I'm fine. She tore her hand away from mine, picked up a small cookie, and held it to my mouth. Try it. I made it especially for you. I looked at that charred thing and felt my throat go a little dry. Can this be eaten? What's wrong? Not good looking? She looked a little disappointed when I stayed silent for a long time. No, it's very good looking, very artistic. I lied against my conscience. Then hurry up and eat. I steeled myself, closed my eyes, and took a small bite. A strong, burnt smell, mixed with lumps of batter that hadn't been stirred properly, and a sweetness so sorrowful, exploded in my mouth in an instant. I felt like my soul had been uplifted. How is it? How is it? She looked at me, with eyes shining brightly. I stifled the urge to die on the spot and gave a thumbs up. Delicious. This thing should only exist in heaven. On earth it's rare to smell it even a few times. Really, her eyes narrowed with delight. That's wonderful. I made a lot for you. Hurry and eat. She pushed the entire plate in front of me. I looked at that platter of biological weapon and felt my vision go dark. Let's eat first. I'll make you cola chicken wings. I tried to change the subject. No, you eat the cookies first. This is the first time I've cooked for you, she persisted. I looked at her little face, full of expectation, and felt I was in a bind. If she ate it, she might die. If she didn't eat it, she would be sad. I hesitated for 3 seconds and chose the former. Isn't it just a cookie? Risking my life to accompany my wife. I picked up a piece, kept a straight face, and shoved it into my mouth, swallowing it whole. Tastes good. One more piece. Delicious. As I finished the 5th, love to the point of blackening, cookie and felt like I was about to ascend on the spot, Sophia suddenly let out a laugh. She laughed so hard she doubled over, tears come in her eyes. You big idiot. Ha ha ha. I was stunned. These cookies, I kneaded the dough with cuttlefish ink and didn't bake them at all, and you actually ate them. Me? I looked down at the charred lump in my hand, then at her bent over with laughter. So, I was played? You. All right, I won't tease you anymore. She wiped the tears of laughter from her eyes and brought out another plate from behind her. This time, the plate held golden, fragrant egg fried rice. The rice had diced ham, corn kernels, and bright green chopped scallions, with a big heart drawn on top and ketchup. This is the surprise I prepared for you. She handed the plate to me. Try it. This one is really edible. I took the plate, still a little stunned. I scooped a spoonful of rice and put it into my mouth. Each grain of rice was distinct, wrapped in the aroma of egg. The savory saltiness of the ham and the fresh sweetness of the corn blended together perfectly. Delicious. A 10,000-fold improvement over the cola chicken wings I make. How was it? Tasty. I looked at her and said earnestly, that's good. She smiled like a child. Your work is so hard. Make sure you eat well. I looked at her, and somewhere inside me, something collapsed. So she knew everything. She, in her own way, clumsily, but with utter sincerity, was caring for me. I put down the plate, reached out, pulled her in my arms, and held her tightly. Sophia. Thank you. She froze for a moment in my arms, then reached out and gently hugged my waist. Dummy, we're husband and wife. At that moment, holding her, I felt the whole world fall silent. The kitchen was a mess, the pot still black, flowers scattered across the floor. Yet in my heart, there was an unprecedented sense of steadiness and warmth. I'm sorry, I murmured, burying my face in the hollow of her neck. Why are you apologizing? She asked, puzzled. For not treating you well enough before. These past 2 years, I was busy with work, busy with social engagements, busy with those self-righteous ideals. I gave her a nice house and a comfortable material life. But I alone forgot to give her the most important thing, companionship. I forgot that she too would feel lonely, forgot that she too needed someone to care for her. I left her alone, abandoned in this cold, lifeless house. No, you've been very good to me. She shook her head in my arms. You gave up the opportunity to go abroad for me. You worked hard, earned money, and supported the family. You even bought me such a beautiful necklace. You are the best husband in the world. Every sentence she spoke was like a needle stabbing into my heart. In her memory, I was so perfect, so devoted. But in reality, I was a complete, utter bastard. I hugged her tightly, unable to utter a single word. All right, that's disgustingly sentimental. She patted my back. Eat quickly, the food's getting cold. She wrenched herself out of my arms and shoved the plate of heart-shaped fried rice back into my hand. Hurry and eat. I'll go clean up the kitchen. She hummed a little tune as she said it and began tidying the mess all over the floor. I watched her busy back, my heart filled with mixed emotions. I sat down at the dining table and ate that plate of egg fried rice mouthful by mouthful. Although it was an ordinary homemade flavor, I tasted it as if it were a delicacy. After finishing the meal, I hurried to wash the dishes. She wouldn't let me. "You've worked all morning. You must be tired. Go rest." She pushed me out of the kitchen. "I'll handle this." I couldn't argue with her, so I let her be. I sat on the sofa, watching her busy figure in the kitchen, feeling like I was dreaming. The one who once gave me the cold shoulder until the end of time. Sophia, who used to find even looking at me annoying, is now cooking and washing up for me. After a while, she came out of the kitchen carrying a plate of sliced fruit. "Here, have some fruit. Get your vitamins." She put the fruit plate on the coffee table and sat down next to me. The two of us sat side by side on the sofa, watching a boring variety show on TV. She would now and then pick up a slice of apple and feed it into my mouth. "Darling," she suddenly spoke. Shall we go out this weekend?" she asked, looking at me with hopeful eyes. "Go out? Where do you want to go?" She thought for a moment. "I want to go back to school and take a look." My heart skipped a beat. Return to school? That was where we began and where all the beautiful memories between us happened. But at the same time, it also hid too many landmines between her and me. Things I didn't want her to remember. What's so special about the school? It's been years since we graduated. I tried to dissuade her from the idea, but I want to go. She started to act cute, tugging my arm and swaying it. "We met there, you know. I want to go back and relive it a bit. Please? Pretty please, darling." When she started to act cute, I was powerless. I felt my principles and bottom line in front of her had already become as fragile as a sheet of paper. "Okay, I'll do whatever you want." "Yeah, honey, you're the best." She happily kissed my face again. I turned to stone once more. She seems to have gotten addicted to kissing. It was the weekend, and the weather was beautiful. I drove Sophia back to our alma mater. After so many years, the campus was still the same. Red brick academic buildings covered in ivy, broad, tree-lined avenues. And that artificial lake where we had bumped into each other countless times. Sophia, like a bird let out of its cage, pulled my hand and ran all over the campus. "Darling, look, that's the classroom where we used to have our major courses." Wow, the library is still the same. I used to love sitting by the window on the third floor to read. And that basketball court. I used to sneak over to watch you play. She chattered on without stopping, her face radiant with the smile of youth. I looked at her and felt as if I had returned to that era of white flowing clothes. Back then, I was the boy sweating it out on the basketball court, and she was the girl in the stands cheering me on. How do we end up here? We walked to the man-made lake. On the bench by the lake sat a few young couples, smooching and oozing the sour stench of love. "Darling, I remember. You proposed to me right here." Sophia pointed to a large willow by the lake and said with a smile, "Me? When did I ever confess to her here? I never properly confessed to her. It was on graduation day that she forcefully dragged me to the Civil Affairs Bureau." Really? I began to break out in a cold sweat. "Yeah, you forgot?" She tilted her head at me. "That night, you asked me to meet you here, held a guitar, and sang me a love song. Then you asked me whether I would be your girlfriend." She told the story with such detail and vividness that even I almost believed it. I really was holding a guitar and singing. But that was to send her off because I thought I was going abroad. After I finished singing, before I even had a chance to say goodbye, she rushed over and hugged me, crying her eyes out. Then what happened next? Dragging me to the Civil Affairs Bureau turned into a disaster. Confess his feelings? That never happened. You must be remembering wrong, right? I tried to correct her false memory. No. She shook her head firmly. I remember it clearly. You were singing that song, "The Moon Represents My Heart." A bit off key, but very heartfelt. Me? It's over. All the details match. Except for that part about confessing. Could it be something she imagined herself? You even said you liked me for a long time, that you noticed me from the very first day I enrolled. I'm even more speechless. It was true that I fell in love with her at first sight, but I never told her. Did my wife, after losing her memory, also come with imagined scenarios and a self-seduction feature? Yes, yes. I remember everything now. What else could I say? I could only go along with her and keep the story flowing. I told you. How could you forget something so important? She smiled in satisfaction and pulled me to sit on the bench by the lake. She rested her head lightly on my shoulder. Darling, do you know? Back then, I really liked you. I know. You have no idea how much effort I put into chasing you. Every day pretending to run into you, taking the seat opposite you in the library, secretly finding out what you like to eat, what your favorite color is. She chattered on, recounting that chaotic, one-sided crush that belonged only to her. I never knew these things before. All I knew was that she was the department beauty, a favored daughter of heaven. I thought her feelings for me were just a passing fancy. It turned out she had once worked so hard for me too. I am sorry. I said those 3 words once again, saying sorry again. She looked up and pinched my cheek. Don't say it anymore. Aren't we fine right now? Yes, we're fine now. So good scared me. I was afraid it was all just an illusion, a bubble that would burst with a single poke. Sophia. I looked in her eyes and asked seriously, if one day you remember some bad things, what will you do? She paused for a moment, then smiled. What bad thing would that be? Like, we argued or I did something that made you sad. She thought for a moment, then looked at me very seriously. Then I'll get to know you all over again, just like now. No matter what you were like before, all I know is that the you I have now is my husband, the one who treats me best. Ethan, I love you. She leaned in and kissed my lips. My mind went blank. Only the soft sensation of her lips remained, and that sentence, I loved you for 5 years, and waited 5 years, I love you. My heart completely surrendered. That kiss was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, stirring 1,000 waves in my heart. I almost instinctively took the initiative, deepening the kiss. The air around us seemed to grow oppressively hot. The breeze by the lake stirred the willow tips and tangled my heart. We only reluctantly broke apart when we were both nearly out of breath. Sophia's face was as red as a ripe apple, her eyes shimmering with moisture, making my mouth dry. She shyly buried her head in my arms, not daring to look at me. It's all your fault, she said gloomily. My fault? I was a little stunned. It's your fault for being so good-looking. I couldn't resist. Me? I held her, feeling her docile form in my arms, and for the first time, I felt an unprecedented sense of fulfillment. Once, I thought our marriage had reached its end, leaving only a mess of broken things and endless exhaustion. But now, heaven has given me a chance to start over in such a strange way. I looked at the person in my arms and made a silent vow in my heart. This time, I would never let go again. No matter what happens in the future, no matter whether her memories return or not, I will keep her firmly by my side. After coming back from school, our relationship seemed to have advanced another step. She no longer blushed when she called me darling like she used to. She became increasingly relaxed and more clingy. When I was at work, she would watch the time and send me messages to remind me to eat and to drink water. When I come home from work, she follows me like a little tail, chattering as she tells me what she drew today and what show she watched. At night, she will hold my arm and fall into a deep sleep. Sometimes when I work late and come home, I find her leaning on the sofa waiting for me, holding my coat in her hands. She said she was afraid I'd be cold when I came home at night. My heart was filled time and again by these seemingly trivial little things of hers. I began to look forward to finishing work, to going home. That cold, icy house, because of her, became my warmest harbor. The proposal of mine that party A killed was also thrown out of my mind. Mr. Anderson urged me several times, but I kept stalling, saying I was still brainstorming. My head is full of Sophia now. I want to take her to eat delicious food, take her to the movies, and make up for all the things we missed over these 5 years. That day, I came home from work and found Sophia wasn't at home. There was a note left on the coffee table in the living room. Dear, I went to the studio to grab something. Dinner's in the fridge. Just heat it up and it's ready to eat. Love you. She even drew a cute smiley face afterward. I looked at the note and smiled. Her studio was in an arts complex not far from home. After we married, worried she might be lonely at home, I rented a studio for her so she could focus on painting. Before, that place had been her refuge. Whenever we argue, she hides in the studio and stays there for the whole day, not answering calls or replying to messages. Now, she actually left me a note of her own accord. I opened the fridge. Inside were the 3 dishes and a soup she had prepared, carefully wrapped in cling film. I put the food in the microwave to heat, then sat at the dining table to wait. While waiting, I was inexplicably drawn into the study. Since we started sleeping in separate rooms, this had become my bedroom. In the corner of the study sat a locked chest. Inside were all the things from our past. I took the keys from a drawer and opened that box. Inside the box were the more than 100 love letters I had written when I first courted her. There was the first gift she gave me, a hand-sewn, lopsided wallet. There were the plane tickets from our first trip together. And a red diary. It was her diary. I don't know when she started writing it. Once we had an argument, and she hysterically threw the diary at me, saying, "Ethan, look what you've done to me." I picked it up but never had the courage to open it. Later, I locked it in this box. Today, I don't know why, but I suddenly really want to take a look. I want to know what our 5 years looked like in her eyes. I took a deep breath and opened the diary. The first page was from 7 years ago, when we had just gotten together. "Today, I'm with Ethan. I'm so happy. I feel like the happiest person in the world." The handwriting was delicate, full of a young girl's excitement. I flipped down. "Today, Ethan took me to his house. His parents really like me. I was so nervous my palms were sweating. Today, we went to register our marriage. From now on, I am Ethan's wife. I will treat him well for the rest of my life." The first half of the diary was full of sweet, everyday moments. Eat, shop, watch movies. Every little thing was carefully recorded by her. Between the lines, it was all full of love. The more I read, the more my eyes filled with tears. It turned out that we were once that good. I kept turning the pages. Apparently, starting about 3 years ago, the tone of the diary changed. Today, Ethan worked late again. I waited for him until midnight, and he still hadn't come back. I ate dinner alone. The food went cold. Today is my birthday. He forgot. He only transferred some money to me, telling me to buy whatever gift I like myself. But it's not a gift I want. Today we argued again, over something very, very small. He thinks I'm making a fuss. I think he doesn't understand me. We haven't had a proper conversation in a long time. I feel like he's drifting farther away from me. This home is growing colder and colder. Ethan, do you still love me? The last page is the day before the divorce. I called him more than a dozen times. He didn't answer a single one. I sat in the dark and waited for him all night. He returned, smelling of alcohol and an unfamiliar perfume. In that moment, my heart was completely dead. "Ethan, let's get a divorce. Let me go, and let yourself go. Clack. A tear fell onto the diary, blurring the ink. My heart felt as if an invisible hand had grasped it fiercely, so painful I could not breathe. That night, there was a scent of perfume on me. It was that female client. After we finished discussing the project that day, she insisted on dragging me to drink and even deliberately rubbed against me. I refused at the time, but I still caught a little of it. I thought Sophia was angry just because I didn't answer the phone. It turned out she had misunderstood, and I didn't even offer a single explanation. I agreed to the divorce just like that, without hesitation. I'm such an asshole. I closed the diary and felt a chill run through my whole body. What on earth have I done? I hurt her so deeply, and now I'm using her amnesia to keep her trapped by my side. I was too selfish. At that moment, the sound of a key turning in the door came from the entrance. Sophia was back. I quickly wiped away my tears, put the diary in the box back where they belonged, and walked out of the study as if nothing had happened. "Dear, I'm back." Sophia, carrying a tube for paintings, ran toward me excitedly. Look, I brought back the painting from our first date." She pulled a roll of paper from the tube, and unfurled it in front of me. The painting shows two young figures seen from behind. The boy is wearing a white shirt, the girl a dress. They sit side by side on a bench by the lake, heads leaning against each other, watching the distant sunset. In the lower right corner of the painting, there is a small line of text. Willing to grow old together with you. She drew this the first time we dated. At that time, we weren't together yet. I came up with a lame excuse to ask her to go sketching by the lake. I paint buildings, she paints landscapes. While painting, I secretly began to paint her. And she painted this picture. Is it pretty? She asked me, tilting her head up, her face full of expectant hope. I looked at the painting, then at her again, my throat so tight I couldn't speak. What's wrong? You don't like it? She saw my expression and grew uneasy. I shook my head, reached out, and pulled her and the painting into a tight embrace. Sophia. Let's take wedding photos again. Take wedding photos? Sophia froze in my arms for a moment, then exploded with immense joy. Really? Darling, are we really going to take wedding photos? I held her, nodding hard. We'll go tomorrow. I didn't want to wait another second. I owed her so much, far too much. A title, a wedding, a set of wedding photos. These were all the things I promised back then, but never fulfilled. Now, I will make them up to her one by one. Great! Yay! She was so happy she jumped and bounced in my arms. I want to wear the biggest, prettiest wedding dress. And take lots and lots of photos. Okay, whatever you say. I smiled and ruffled her hair. Seeing her so happy, the little gloom in my heart that had come from reading the diary also lifted considerably. The past cannot be changed, but I can make it so our future holds no more regrets. The next day, I called Mr. Anderson and asked for a week off. Mr. Anderson nearly chewed me out over the phone, but I no longer cared. A job can be found again, but a wife lost is truly gone. I took Sophia to the largest bridal photography studio in the city. As soon as the manager in the shop saw me, he immediately came over enthusiastically. Mr. Johnson, you're here. Everything has been prepared for you. This shop was opened by one of my clients. I called him late into the night last night. Have him clear the place today and receive only the two of us. Sophia looked at the empty luxury studio with some surprise. Honey, why is there no one here today? Because today, this place is here to serve only you. I held her hand like a prince welcoming my princess. She blushed at my words, but her eyes were full of unmistakable happiness. Next came choosing the wedding dress. Hundreds of different wedding gowns hung all over the hall, dazzling to the eye. Sophia darted among the wedding gowns like a mouse in a rice bin, excited. Wow, this one is beautiful. That one is gorgeous too. She tried on gowns for a long time and finally chose the most classic strapless dress with a long train. When she stepped out of the fitting room wearing that wedding dress, I felt as if the whole world had lost its voice. The pure white gown made her skin look whiter than snow. Delicate lace outlined her graceful figure. A long trailing train, like a peacock's tail feathers, magnificent and pure. She stood there, smiling faintly, like an angel descended to earth. My heart skipped a beat. Do I look good? She lifted her skirt and turned once before me, a hint of shyness and expectancy on her face. You look beautiful. I walked up to her and stared at her foolishly. You are the most beautiful bride I have ever seen. My eyes were a little wet. I had imagined this scene countless times in my dreams. Today, it finally became reality. Makeup, styling, and then the formal shoot. The photographer was a very experienced veteran, very good at setting the mood. Come on, groom, get a little closer to the bride. Yes, closer. The groom wraps his arm around the bride's waist, looks at her with a gaze full of deep affection. The bride smiles a bit sweeter. Think about the scene when you first met. I hold the warm, soft person in my arms, looking at her bright, beaming face. There is no need to act at all. My look, my smile, all come from the heart. We shot many scenes. A European palace, a Chinese courtyard, and a romantic seaside. Every time we changed a scene, Sophia behaved like a primary school student on her first spring outing, full of curiosity and excitement. She pulled me along, running on the beach and playing by the sea. The sea breeze lifted her veil. The afterglow of the setting sun bathed her, beautiful like a painting. The photographer captured the moment. He said it was the most natural and most moving photo he'd taken in his 20-year career. That night, we collapsed from exhaustion in the studio's lounge. Sophia leaned against my shoulder, flipping through the photos from the camera, a goofy smile lingering on her face. "Dear, we took so many photos today. Do you like them?" "I like them." "I love them," she nodded eagerly. "When the photos are developed, I want to hang them all over the walls of our house." "Okay," I agreed with a smile. "By the way, darling," she suddenly looked up, her eyes sparkling as she looked at me. "Let's have a wedding." My heart leapt violently. Wedding. This is the largest debt I owe her. Back then we got our marriage certificate in a hurry and didn't have time to hold a wedding. Later I wanted to arrange one, but she said it was too much trouble and she didn't want the fuss. I knew that was just her excuse. She just didn't want to make things difficult for me. Because at that time, my studio was just getting started. I was swamped and exhausted, with no time or energy to prepare a wedding. "Okay." I looked into her eyes and made a solemn promise. "I'll give you the grandest wedding in the whole world. No need to be grand." She shook her head and pressed her face against my chest. "As long as you're here, that's enough." I held her, my heart melting. "Sophia, you really are a fool. So foolish it made my heart ache." For the next few days, I turned down all my work and devoted myself to staying with Sophia, preparing for our wedding. We went to choose a venue together, tasted dishes together, and designed the invitations together. For every detail, I let her decide personally. I only want her to have absolutely no regrets. Peter was so shocked when he learned I was going to hold the wedding again that his jaw nearly dropped. "No way, bro. Are you serious? Aren't you afraid that in the middle of the ceremony your sister-in-law will regain her memory and turn on you right then and there?" "Let her turn," I said, looking at Sophia nearby who was carefully choosing the wedding candies, my gaze gentle. "Then I'll accept it too. These are all things I owe her." Peter looked at me, sighed, and patted my shoulder. "You're finally wise, huh? But honestly, seeing you two like this now, I'm really happy for you." The wedding was set for 1 month later. The place was by the artificial lake at our university, the spot where she remembered I confessed my love to her. I invited all our relatives and friends, including my parents who live abroad and her painter father who never really liked me. The night before the wedding, I was so nervous I couldn't sleep at all. I kept checking every step of the wedding over and over, afraid of even the slightest mistake. Sophia, however, was calmer than I was. She took my hand and comforted me. "Darling, don't be nervous. It's just a wedding. It's not like it's our first time." Me? Why do those words sound so strange? On the wedding day, the sun was shining brightly. Sophia wore the wedding dress I had tailored for her, linked her arm with her father's, and walked toward me step by step. Her father, a stern old artist. Today I also wore formal attire, a trace of reluctance and gratitude on my face. He placed Sophia's hand into mine. "Ethan, I'm entrusting my precious daughter to you. From now on, you must treat her well." "Dad, don't worry, I will." I called him Dad for the first time. It was the first time I had ever called him that. He froze for a moment, then his eyes welled up. I held Sophia's hand and stood in front of the priest, listening to him recite those solemn vows. "Mr. Ethan, do you take Miss Sophia to be your wife, for better or for worse? In sickness and in health, to love her, care for her, respect her, accept her, and remain forever faithful to her until the end of your life?" I looked at Sophia. In her eyes, my reflection was mirrored. Inside, it was filled with love and trust. My tears could no longer be held back. They streamed down. "Ido." With all the strength in my body, I spoke these 3 words. "Miss Sophia, would you be willing?" The priest turned to Sophia. Everyone's eyes were fixed on her. She smiled and was about to speak. Suddenly, her complexion went pale, and she frowned tightly. She reached out and held her forehead, her body swaying slightly. "Sophia, what's wrong?" My heart tightened as I quickly steadied her. My head hurts so much." She closed her eyes in pain, fine beads of sweat forming on her brow. Hurry, call an ambulance. The scene instantly descended into chaos. I held the passed-out Sophia in my arms, feeling my world spin. God, in the end, you still won't let me go, will you? The ambulance siren grew nearer, piercing the romantic atmosphere of the wedding. I held the unconscious Sophia, feeling as if a cold hand had gripped my heart, making it hard to breathe. The guests panicked, whispering and speculating. Sophia's father looked deathly pale, clutching my arm, his voice trembling. Ethan, Sophia, what's wrong with her? Dad, don't worry, it's nothing, it's the old problem. I forced myself to stay calm as I comforted him, but my own voice trembled uncontrollably. I followed the ambulance, racing to the hospital at breakneck speed. It was the same hospital as last time, St. Mary's Hospital, and the same attending physician, Dr. Miller. Sophia was rushed into the emergency room, the red light flashing like a devouring eye. I sat dejectedly on the bench in the corridor, my hands buried in my hair, my mind a blank. Why did it have to be today of all days? Why did it have to happen just as we were about to start over? Peter and Sophia's father had also rushed over. Ethan, don't worry too much. Your sister-in-law is in good hands. Fate will look after her. She'll be fine, Peter said, patting my shoulder. I said nothing, just stared fixedly at the emergency room door. Time passed second by second, each one stretching as long as a century. At last, the lights in the emergency room went out. The doctor came out. I sprang to my feet and rushed over. Doctor, how is my wife? The doctor took off his mask, his expression somewhat grave. The patient is out of danger. She fainted because her intense emotions aggravated the intracranial hematoma. And her memory. I asked the question I feared most. The doctor glanced at me and sighed. Mr. Johnson, you should be mentally prepared. From our examinations, the hematoma in her brain shows signs of dissipating due to this stimulation. That means her memory is very likely to return. Boom! My world completely collapsed. Memory recovered? Does that mean she will remember everything? Remember our cold marriage? Remember my shitty behavior? Remember our unfinished divorce? Then what does the sweetness between us during this time count for? A self-deception joke? When will she wake up? My voice was as dry as sandpaper. Should be soon. She's been moved to a regular ward. I wandered to the ward door in a trance, but for a long time I couldn't bring myself to push it open. I'm afraid of seeing, after she regains consciousness, those eyes full of disgust and coldness. Go in. Sophia's father stood behind me and gave me a gentle push. No matter what, you're her husband. You should stay with her. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. On the hospital bed, Sophia lay quietly, her complexion still pale. I walked to the bedside and sat down. I looked at her, my mind in complete turmoil. If she wakes up and regains her memory, will the first thing she do be ask me for a divorce? What am I supposed to do? Should I kneel and beg her forgiveness or let her go? While I was lost in these wild thoughts, her eyelashes twitched. She slowly opened her eyes. Those eyes I knew and feared looked at the ceiling in confusion, then slowly turned toward me. Their eyes met. Her gaze was no longer the clear dependence of her amnesia. Inside them was the complex emotion I hadn't seen for a long time. My heart sank to the bottom of the valley. She remembered. She remembered everything. Ethan, she spoke, her voice a little hoarse. No longer darling, and not Ethan in that intimate way, but Ethan. Between us, the most distant of names. You. I opened my mouth, but didn't know what to say. Should I say, I'm sorry, or should I say, let me explain? The hospital room was plunged in dead silence. The two of us just looked at each other like that, neither of us saying another word. After a long time, she finally spoke again, slowly. Are we having a wedding? Her voice was very soft, as if confirming something unreal. Yes. I nodded. She fell silent. A long silence. I felt as if my heart was being torn apart. I would rather she wake up and scream at me, or slap me. Anything would be better than this deadening silence. Why did you do this? She finally asked again. What? Why did you deceive me? She looked at me, and slowly, a film of tears clouded her eyes. Taking advantage of my amnesia, pretending to be a good husband, having me take wedding photos with you, holding a wedding. Ethan, do you think this is amusing? Every word she spoke was like a knife, stabbing sharply in my heart. I wanted to explain, but I found that any words in the face of the facts sounded so pale and powerless. I had indeed lied to her. Didn't, she sneered, and tears slid down from the corners of her eyes. Do you think I'm especially stupid? Especially easy to fool? No. Sophia, listen to me. I panicked, grabbing her hand. I admit, at first, I did deceive you. Because the doctor said not to upset you, I had to go along with you. But later I was sincere. I really wanted to start over with you. Start over. She looked at me, her eyes full of sarcasm. How can we start over? Go back to that cold, lifeless home? Go back to those days when we couldn't stand each other? Ethan, we can't go back. We can. As long as you're willing, we can definitely go back. I held her hand tightly, afraid that if I let go, she would vanish. Sophia, I'm sorry. I know I've done a lot of terrible things before. I ignored you. I hurt you. I'm a bastard. But please, give me one more chance, will you? Just one. I, a 30-year-old man, cried like a child in front of her. She looked at me, and for a moment a flicker of emotion crossed her eyes, but it was quickly replaced by coldness. She slowly withdrew her hand. Ethan, let's both calm down. Go out first. I want to be alone. After she said that, she turned her head away and didn't look at me anymore. I watched her resolute back, feeling all my strength drained away. I knew I had ruined everything. I stumbled out of the hospital room in a daze. At the door, Peter and Sophia's father were both looking at me with worried faces. How was it? I shook my head. I couldn't utter a single word. I sat on the corridor bench all night. I thought a lot about the bits and pieces of our 5 years, about how we've been getting along since she lost her memory. By dawn, I had made a decision. I walked into the ward. Sophia was already awake, leaning against the head of the bed and looking out the window. She didn't turn around when she heard me come in. I walked to her bedside and placed something on the nightstand. They were 2 household registration booklets and a document folder. Inside the folder was a divorce agreement with my name signed on it. Sophia. I looked at her back, my voice hoarse. I know, no matter how much I say, it won't make up for the hurt I caused you. Thank you for this time. You let me live again. If you want a divorce, I agree. The assets, the house, the car, they're all yours. I will leave with nothing. I only hope that you'll be well. After I finished speaking, I gave her a long, deep look, then turned around, ready to leave. Just as my hand touched the doorknob, from behind me came her voice, edged with sobs. Ethan, you bastard. I froze in my tracks. Do you think that's enough? She suddenly jumped out of bed, ran behind me, and from behind, hugged me tightly. You lured me back, made me fall in love with you again, and now you want to irresponsibly push me away? I'm telling you, there's no way. This marriage, whether you want to end it or not, it will end. I was stunned. What do you mean? I slowly turned around and saw her face streaked with tears, yet she looked at me stubbornly. What do you mean? She wiped her eyes, grabbed the divorce papers from the bedside table, and with a ripping sound tore them in two. She threw the pieces to the floor, tilted her head back, looked at me, and spoke word by word. The Ethan from before, I'm divorced from him. From now on, I want to remarry this Ethan who will cook for me, who will go shopping with me, who will arrange our wedding for me. Will you? I looked at the Sophia in front of me, her face streaked with tears, yet utterly resolute. I feel like my brain has been formatted. I can't process any of the information in what she said. Divorced? Married again? What kind of god-tier move is this? You recovered your memory, didn't you? I asked foolishly. Yes, I did. She sniffed, her eyes red-rimmed. I remembered everything. I remembered what a bastard you are. I remembered those awful 5 years and how I made up my mind to divorce you. Every time she spoke, my heart grew a little colder. But she shifted her tone, rose on her toes, and cupped my face in her hands. I also remembered how good you've been to me during this time. I remembered how you, flustered, tried to learn to cook for me and ended up making overly sweet cola chicken wings. I remember you skipping work to come home for me, and I pranked you with squid ink cookies. I remember you on campus, listening to me ramble about our romantic past, that look of restraint and helplessness on your face. I remember you holding me, shedding tears when you gave me the wedding you'd been 5 years late in giving. Ethan, she said, looking into my eyes. There was a gentleness and clarity in her eyes I had never seen before. I admit, I hated that cold, selfish Ethan who only knew work, and I thought about giving up. But this clumsy, soft-hearted Ethan who was willing to change for me, I seemed to have fallen in love with him again. I could no longer hold back my tears. They burst from my eyes. I thought her memory returning would be the end of our relationship. I thought that letting go was the best choice I could make for her. I never imagined she would choose to forgive. Fool, what are you crying for? She wiped my tears with her fingertip, though she was crying even harder herself. I haven't finished speaking yet. How long did you think you could fool me? From the first day you brought me back home, I knew something was off. I was stunned. What? Our house is as bare as a show home. We don't even have a single photo together. In the wardrobe, our clothes are divided more clearly than the Chu River and Han boundary. You sleep in the study. I sleep in a master bedroom. Does that look like a loving couple? And besides, your cooking is so awful, even you can't swallow it. Most importantly, she paused, her eyes growing a bit sly. Ethan, when you lie, your left eyebrow twitches unconsciously. That habit hasn't changed at all in 7 years. Me, I felt my face instantly flush the color of a pig's liver. So all my brilliant acting during that time was, in her eyes, a one-man show full of holes. Then my memories were very muddled then. I couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't, but I could feel that your kindness toward me was genuine. So I played along to see what you were really up to. She said this with a slightly embarrassed smile. I didn't expect you could act so well, taking wedding photos, holding a wedding. You almost had me convinced we really are that loving. I looked at her, half laughing, half crying. After all that, I thought I was the director, but it turns out I'm just an actor helping with the performance. And she was the one who controlled everything, the Oscar-winning actress. So, at the wedding, you didn't faint because your memory came back. Half and half. She stuck out her tongue. My head really hurt back then, and a lot of scenes flooded in. But mainly, I saw you crying, I felt heartbroken, I got all worked up, and then I fainted. I was completely speechless. I felt like the past month of fear and anxiety, being on edge, was all a joke. I reached out and pinched her cheek. Sophia, you've gone bad. Learned it from you, she retorted with righteous certainty. We looked at each other, and suddenly both burst out laughing. And then both of us began to cry. I held her tightly in my arms, as if trying to meld her into my very bones and blood. Sofa, I'm sorry. This time we spoke those 3 words at the same time. For the 5 years we lost, for the hurts we once caused each other, and for the new life we'll have in the future, we didn't hold another wedding, because that unfinished ceremony had already become a unique memento between us. After being discharged from the hospital, the first thing we did was go to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Not a divorce. Instead, we were retaking the photo for our marriage certificate. In the photo, the two of us wore white shirts, our heads touching, smiling like a couple of idiots. On the way home, Sophia held the new red booklet, flipping through it over and over. Darling, now that we're legally married, right? We've always been. I drove, smiling as I said, that's different. She shook her head. When we got home, the first thing I did was move all my things from the study back into the master bedroom. Sophia, meanwhile, filled every wall in the house with her paintings. That painting, Willing to Grow Old with You, she hung in the most conspicuous spot above our bed. The cold, icy house finally gained the warmth of a home. I quit my job as well. Mr. Anderson was so furious he was hopping mad, but in the end he let them go. I used the savings I'd accumulated over the years, partnered with friends, and opened my own design studio. No longer needing to kowtow to clients, no longer having to stay up all night for projects. I could freely do the designs I loved, and I had more time to spend with Sophia. I started learning to cook, though I still often mess things up. But Sophia would always complain that my dishes tasted odd while eating every last bite. On weekend afternoons, we'd curl up on the sofa together to watch movies. When the weather was nice, we'd hold hands and go for walks in the nearby park. Life was ordinary, yet full of trivial happiness. One day, I was in the studio drawing when I received a text from Sophia. It was a photo. In the photo was a pregnancy test stick, clearly showing 2 red lines. Below was a line of text. "Mr. Johnson, congratulations, but going to be a father." I stared at that photo, stunned for a full 30 seconds. Then I threw down my brush, ran out of the studio like a madman, and headed for home. I rushed home, opened the door, and saw Sophia sitting on the sofa, smiling at me. I walked up to her, slowly crouched down, and pressed my ear against her still flat little belly. I think I heard something. Heard what? Hearing her say, "Dad is a big dummy." Sophia laughed out loud at my teasing. I lifted my head, looked at her, and laughed along. Sunlight poured in through the window, falling on us, warm and cozy. I looked at her smiling face, and my heart was at peace. It turned out that happiness is not about achieving fame and success, nor about vast wealth. Happiness is after quarreling, making a scene, missing chances, and getting hurt. When you look back, you're still there. And I, at last, learned how to love.